20 cars ready to take the green for 10 laps. Let's hope we get some racing laps in the books so we get set to let them loose down the world-famous Gardner Straight. And race number 2, not too far away right now. Good start, everybody fans out. 3 wide, 4 wide from the Miners here, and Randall will lead us. Someone has to give. Tirana's on the outside, a Mustang in the middle, and they all used a bit of common sense, Kralsey, going into turn number 1 because 4 wide never works.
Terrible start for Johnson and got swamped by Policina, who tried to go down the inside at turn 1, decided to back out, which I think is the smart decision. Ryan Hansford, meanwhile, was trying to squeeze his way around the outside. The multi-spares Camaro, that's a yellow car there just going through shot. There's Harris, he's side by side with Bow, who started this one in 8th position, looking to make some ground. Just behind them, Jeremy Gray and Paul Freestone, Camaro and Capri, respectively. So they've got through turn 3. That's one bogey corner today. What about turn 4?
Just looking at that number 9 Falcon of Andrew Fisher. A little bit of smoke from the back of that car once again. He's down the field at the moment in 13th position. Here he is once again with Bruce Williams. They've repaired the AC Delco entry from this morning's incident. I hope that's not anything more sinister out of the number 9 car.
We did see damage to the blue Tirana. That was just him taking evasive action, and it was sort of secondary contact in diving out of the way of the Hackwood Firebird going into the wall. That was Policina trying to go around the outside of Hansford for 2nd and 3rd, the top of Lukey Heights. They all get through there okay for 3rd and 4th correction. Adam Bressington and Harris in the Camaros now just tucking in behind 2 Holden Tiranas.
I think we were lucky not to have more cars in that incident this morning on Bass Straight. Well done to everybody for avoiding the incident. We come through to complete the first lap. Jim Policina, the background shot there, and that was the number 4 car running to the extreme limits of the final turn. Here comes Adam Bressington on the back of Jim Policina, who's instantly been the form as Johnson takes the lead now in turn number 1. So it's right the wrong of that start. And now Randall will stay to the outside. Bressington running really wide down to Doohan Corner, and it's all on here on lap number 2.
Big slide on the exit in the VDC Camaro from White Line Racing. So the long way around. It's got some ponies, that car. Bigger engine, of course. 6-litre engine in that car compared to the 5-litre in the Tirana. Horror weekend continues for Andrew Fisher as he limps into pit lane. But this game of cat and mouse may well continue for the whole race between the 2 Mustangs. Randall looks down the inside. It was late. Decided not to commit to the move. But of course, the more these guys squabble, Ryan Hansford, yellow Tirana just behind will be going, you beauty, let's get into this as well. We all know Ryan loves a fight. On the track at least.
You know about off track it?
No, I have no idea.
I wouldn't take him on anyway. Out of Siberia they come. Definitely is Randall in 2nd of the timing issue with the number 4 car. Once again, Harris right on the dirt through that right-hander. Why do they like tease him? He's going to bite, and he'll bite really hard.
And that's us sitting in a nice warm commentary box, miles from the action. Talk about being in one of these cars at 1,600 odd kilos, probably sliding at 200 k's an hour through one of the most daunting corners in the sport in Australia, if not anywhere in the world. Such a good bit of road. So here's the rolling start. Johnson just really slow away and got gobbled up by Policina, who makes good starts irrespective of standing or rolling in V8 touring cars, Super 3 and TCM.
You know what, I held back, so I thought maybe they were going to send him again. There was such a slow build-up to the start. 5 shots at the bottom as another change to the lead happens. When we look at a replay of the start, and somebody had to give. That was 4 wide into turn number 1, if you don't mind.
Whoa.
The track is Hansford at the bottom of the shot as well. You watch the bottom, I watch the top on this one.
Copy that.
Into turn 1, into the southern loop still.
So was that just an error from Ryan, or is there an issue with that car? He's going a long way to rejoin down at turn 2 at the southern loop, or just trying to find safety and stay out of the way. Here's the move. We saw it live. Johnson with the toe. Yes, you get a toe in one of these cars. They punch a pretty big hole in the air, and they don't have any aero, so the slipstream effect will be quite significant. Johnson through, and that's just Hansford running wide. That's a strange one. And see where and if he rejoins. He just set his personal best lap of the race, the fastest first sector of the entire motor race. This car had good speed.
See inside the cockpit, he's looking down at the car. That car was up on stands right up till the start of this race, and it has come to a stop, so clearly a mechanical issue. with the multi-spare. It's a brand new Tirana out of Peters Motorsport for this year. And he's parked down there in the wildlife. They want to probably get onto that fire. We had a grass fire yesterday at turn number 2.
Unbelievably. Though a bit of rain this morning might have just helped damp things down. But yeah, fire at Phillip Island, that's usually something we reserve for Hidden Valley. So that's a shame for Ryan, the Queenslander. Brett Peters' team, Rod Dawson and his boys will have to go to work and rectify that. Unfortunately, losing that race earlier today, it's just another opportunity where they can't score points for the championship. Windscreen wiper on for Ryle Harris. There's either a light sprinkle or he's just bumped the switch in a busy little battle with 5-time champ John Bowe.
Second outing for the Super Utes champion. Someone locking a break going to turn number 1, or is it more to it as Bowe now makes the move?
Was that Bressington or was it further ahead? Was it one of the Mustangs squabbling for the lead, Randall and Johnson?
Very odd you would lock a break going down to turn number 1. There's somebody going off the track, and it is.
Oh, it's Randall.
So was that him? It had that puff of smoke going into turn number 1. He was in second position, and now will drop behind Bruce Williams, maybe Cam Mason as well. Look the front right on car number 4.
Well, that would explain the big puff of smoke as he got into turn 1. It's the correct side of the car for that. Nice little bit of detective work there, Matt. That solves that problem. What a shame for Tom. Just swapped the lead with Stephen Johnson, squabbling over the top spot, and that just hands Johnson a comfortable margin now over Bressington.
Shame for the youngster in the Sky Sands Mustang. Meantime, this is Paul Freestone, Jeremy Gray, Tony Karafalowski, and the rest of the cars inside the top 10 as we're on lap 4 here in race number 2 of the Painter-Dixon Touring Car Masters. There is Williams, SC Delco entry, back in car. In the debut appearance of the Ford Capri, he thought about making a gear change then. He might have to with the length of this gear stick. From Gray across the top of Lukey Heights we go. That's Freestone ahead. We saw Gray in the Tirana on the streets of Adelaide. That's in the hands of Peter Burnett, former V8 Utes racer this weekend.
Oh, no.
More drama down here. The second race in succession. Bruce Williams is in trouble down at the hairpin.
And there's another car off to the left of shot there. And quite some damage on both of those cars as they try and unlock each other. Careful not to reverse into Bob Middleton, who's going through MG. Well, this might self-clear. I think they may have just gone safety car, though. The 2 cars are out the way they have. It looks like there's quite a bit of damage to Tony Karafalowski steering the TIFS warehousing Ford Mustang, Sydney driver. So that's Ryan Hansford's car who's stuck down at turn 2. Trying to work out who else was off the road. I think Bressington's tumbled down the timing screen in car 95. He was second. Let's have another look. Here we go. Jim Policina. Correction, Jeff Emery. My mistake. Those cars look the same.
Got me before.
And it was Jeff Emery under brakes, turned into Tony Kay, and poor old Brucey Williams had nowhere to go because he finds himself with the Mustang just pointing in the wrong direction.
Policina was lucky not to end up in the lake just behind the trees. Way you end up off the circuit there, driver's left-hand side, and there's a sad story for Tom Randall limping the Sky Sands Mustang back to the pits. So the day gets worse for Jeff Emery because just before that moment we saw the contact with him braking and trying to turn down the hill there, ultimately contact with Karafalowski. He'd just been penalised 10 seconds for a starting infringement because he spun on the outlap, which is a big no-no. So 10 seconds to be added to his race time, not that it really matters anyway. Just confirming, Bressington is second. He is okay right there in the 95 White Line Racing Camaro. Just dropped off the timing monitor. And the safety car to recover car number 88 for Tony Karafalowski. Gee, it's been a tough old day at the office for some guys here today in Painter-Dixon Touring Car Masters. We're halfway through race 2. This is the 5th race of the championship. Race 6 coming your way tomorrow. Tony Kay sat out the first round of this year's series on the streets of Adelaide, decided to debut at Phillip Island. Vodafone Mustang safety car now just cruises away while Johnson, Bressington and Policina make their way to join the queue of cars. Lap 6, these laps count behind the safety car and brings Bressington right into the game. Bowe is now 5th behind Ryle Harris. Paul Freestone in 6th, Jeremy Gray in 7th. A long way back to the rest of the field here as they all filter their way out the final turns.
So all of a sudden, some people are having a pretty good day through all of this. Cameron Mason up a lot of spots from 11th to 8th, correction. Cameron Tilley from well outside the top 10. The Valiant Pacer to 9th place. They've been struggling with the throttle on that car. He said, yesterday I only had 80% throttle. I couldn't get full throttle for varying reasons. So he looking to go flat out in this one, and he's up inside the top 10. Jeff Emery still 10th despite those dramas, but he's got 10 seconds hanging over his head.
So Tony Karanflowski's car gets towed back to the pits while we're under safety car. Let's wind the clock back to the opening round of this year's Painter Dixon Touring Car Masters on the streets of Adelaide at the Superloop Adelaide 500. Dometic Trophy race got underway with a whole fleet of Tiranas and an XD Falcon to mix.
Unfortunately, Marcus Ikanovic's packed up and gone home this weekend with some engine dramas in his car, looking for a return at Winton. Turn 8 caused some victims. Aaron McGill, the reason he's not racing this weekend is because he's still trying to catch himself after this moment. He's had a few, but loves to put on the show in that Ranger Ford.
He's in fact got his own highlights reel to himself now. This was Bow slicing his way through the field inside of Jeremy Gray at the final corner. He debuted that beautifully presented Painter Dixon entry, and Bruce Williams breaking through for his first win in the Dometic Trophy race for AC Delco, which all caught us by surprise. The flag came in a fraction early there on the streets of Adelaide in the trophy race. But then we got down to business with the first points-paying race of the year, and the usual suspects at the front end of this field. Not a great start, and the bad luck continued for Andrew Fisher, smashing the wall hard there at turn number 8.
And that would put him out for the remainder of the weekend, while Stephen Johnson was doing the business out in front in complete control, even if it looks like out of control through the centre chicane. It was an imperious weekend for the WM Waste Ford. This was a cool battle. Bressington going past Raul Harris, who on debut was really impressive, Matt.
Yeah, agreed. This wasn't the best part of his weekend, losing several positions there. Policina and Rob Hackwood, who was having a great day out in that number 24 car. But Johnson picked up where he left off on the streets of Newcastle, getting maximum points in the first race. Then we went to race number 2, and yep, second verse, same as the first.
Bressington v Johnson. It's turning out to be the story of the championship. Bit of a hip and shoulder there between Freestone and McGill on the run up into turn 4 at the end of Wakefield Street. This is typical TCM, isn't it? Busy all the way through the field.
McGill right down the middle of the road. That was Freestone. Opportunistic move down there at turn number 5. Harris and Hackwood getting together at the top of Wakefield Street and sending Hackwood on a one-way ticket back to Adelaide Airport that afternoon.
Hasn't been a great start to the season for the World Pro Racing Firebird. Harris was on the comeback trail, continued to march his way forward. Jason Gomersall was next on his hit list, was Paul Freestone dived over the curbs at the centre chicane.
Chassis rubbing across the concrete down there. Some of the highlights from Adelaide. We go back to live shots, and the green flag waves at the end of lap number 6. And what's happened to Johnson? He drops back behind Bressington at the start of this race. Well, down to turn number 1.
Matt, that's really strange, because that's what happened at the start proper when the race went green. He just got swamped, and then the car was okay. This has been a huge opportunity for Adam Bressington. Gets himself in front. These two shaping up as the early championship contenders in Painter Dixon Touring Car Masters. Policina next, then it's Harris. There's Freestone and Bow going wheel to wheel on the run down the hill into turn 3. Let's see what Johnson's got now in race pace after being swamped at the start. Well, there's your answer. It's pretty good. He's already looking at putting a move on the Camaro.
Suddenly the conditions a bit darker outside than what they were at the start of the race. Absolutely no wind to talk about over Bass Strait today. It's like glass out there at the moment, but keep an eye on the skies. You just never know here at Phillip Island, do you? As Adam Bressington leads us out of Siberia. Johnson back on the tail of the Diamond Trucks Adelaide entry through the fast right-hand sweeper and the climb to Lukey Heights on lap number 7.
I think Jim Policina fancies himself here in the Tirana as Johnson takes that shallower line into Lukey Heights. Let's watch for a move at MG. Getting power down out of it will be critical as well. Perhaps set up a move on Gardner Straight or down towards turn 1. We're on board with the experienced Sydney sider. Last year won the Pro Sports class in this and the Australian Production Car Championship and the Kumho Cup in Super 3. Hugely successful season. And look, Raul Harris has just joined into the party at the front of the field.
It's Freestone, Mason and Gray. Here's Cam Tilley and Jeff Emery, who debuts in the ex-Policina Tirana. Through we go to complete another lap. Johnson tucked in behind the back of Bressington. Makes the look for a move down the inside. Won't be able to do it at turn number 1. Bressington locked the right front for a split second anyway. Continue on, but it does bring these other 2 cars into the mix.
So let's have another look at this. And wow, Bressington went really early from the outside. So Johnson looked like he had a bit of a slide. I don't think Race Control will like that very much, though. Johnson's the pole man. He can control the restart when it goes green. So there may be a question mark hanging over car 95. Irrespective, there's a fight on for the lead as they go down into turn 4 again. Bressington very, very defensive. So we won't worry too much about the restart for now. Let's just let this battle play out. We'll let the officials do their job and deal with any restart infringements after the race, because it's a really good one. Is that specks of rain perhaps on the windscreen? We saw Harris with the windscreen wiper on again.
I think he hasn't identified the switch in that car yet. Didn't need it at Adelaide. It's now Johnson around the outside. Don't tell me he's going to do it up there. He hangs tough. He's in the best possible position here. At the top of Lukey Heights, will have the option down the inside. He just needs to hold it in, and Johnson should get it done here. What a move.
Policina's struggling to get his car stopped, and hip and shoulders Bressington wide. Great racing. Brilliant bit of driving between the two of them to give each other racing room, and Harris barges his way through the Tirana, gets himself to third.
Great sequence of racing that started on the exit of Siberia, and Johnson with the move of the season so far, around the outside at Lukey Heights, and gets it done at the hairpin.
And that's fine in a car with aero, not a Touring Car Masters car. What a great bit of racing, locked that in, pass of the year. And Policina was backing the Tirana in up the inside, and just had to make a little bit of contact, I think, to clear him. And that was all the opportunity that Royal Harris needed to go through on the inside.
Policina's thinking, nah, you can't do it there. Or can you? And he thought, well, if you can do it, I'll try it too.
Watch for the opposite lock under brakes. This car's about to slide. There it goes. Just a quick flick of the steering wheel.
And no contact with the 95 until there. The slightest of contact on the exit. Brilliant bit of racing, and it's still on down here at the hairpin.
And we're hearing from Race Control, there's no concern with the restart either. So fair play, race on. Great pass, Johnson, and as it turns out, a really critical one. Bressington next, and Royal Harris looking to work his way forward. The Camaro's now a little bit of breathing room for car 17 out in front.
Across the curb can we go. Closing stages of this one. Harris now looking racy on the back of Bressington to the top. Down the hill we go, so Johnson has just under a second. Don't rule out John Bowe in this one. He's fourth. May sneak into third position here. It'll be one lap to go in race 2 of this incredible Paynter-Dixon Touring Car Masters race. The 8 off the circuit down there of Gary O'Brien at Siberia.
Cool to see the HQ GDS making a return to Paynter-Dixon TCM. Gary's an experienced guy, hasn't driven for a long time. Made his return on the streets of Adelaide. Right, one to go. Where are they at? It's Johnson officially by 0.8. It's more like 2 car lengths-ish. And then we go back to Royal Harris, who is right in this. Behind them, John Bowe, who, as cagey as ever, has just picked his way forward lap after lap. The Paynter-Dixon Tirana finds himself a contender. Jim Policina just dropping off the back of this leading group as the race has evolved, and he got hip and shouldered out of what was third place. Bit of unwanted aero for Gerard Gray in the Capri.
Just have to be careful here, keeping that bonnet down on the number 67 as into turn 4 for the final time here at the Phillip Island Grand Prix circuit. Johnson, who's been undefeated in the points-paying races, the 2-time Paynter-Dixon Touring Car Masters champion, started off in style in Adelaide, but still half a lap remaining. The battle is on for second. Here comes Harris. Racing, isn't it?
This is awesome stuff, and Ryle has just added an extra dimension to the point. And how's the moment for Bowe? Somehow held on to that. It looks really greasy at the hay shed, and someone else off in the background, Policina, having a wild moment. I think there might be a bit of moisture down there. They're all sliding around, somehow getting away with it. Johnson coming back to Bressington, who in turn is under pressure from Harris. This is going to be a race to the line.
Final turn. Johnson looks in control, but I'm watching second and third. Harris glues himself to the back of Bressington, while Johnson leads us onto the Gardner Straight. I know it's early days in the Paynter-Dixon Touring Car Masters, but race of the year right there. And give it to Johnson. Top 4 covered by less than a second. Bressington will get home for second from Harris, and John Bowe finishes in 4th. Yes, sir.
What a cool race. Jeff Emery finishes fifth. Fifth place for Emery. We saw him in that contact with Karen Filosky, which race control will look at. We're going to show you what went on through all of that because it was pretty crazy. Jeremy Gray limping across the line. He was praying to the gods of bonnet pins, and I think they've come through for him without any further damage. So this is Policina. There must be some fluid down there. Oh, a bit of light rain because he fires it off at 200 k's an hour. And it's lucky that there was no one else right behind him. And he crossed the line in 15th. Watch the back of shot. So Bow has a huge moment. And Policina just goes straight off behind him. Couldn't get the car turned.
It's a cloud of dust that got our attention. Wasn't lucky no one was around at that time. A high-speed entry back onto the circuit for the Mocom Tirana. He finished down the field in 15th. That 10 seconds for Jeff Emery instantly should get him in a 10th position. When all is said and done, Johnson by less than half a second to Bressington. Harris in third. Back to Bow. Should be Mason into 5th position on corrected order. Bruce Williams inside the top 10. A bizarre-looking top 10 today with the Comet inside there as well.
Bruce Williams crashed in that race and finished 7th. That's remarkable. How's your heart rate? Personal best finish for Alan Bougen too in the Mercury Comet. Jero Gray limps across the line in 11th in the Capri. Guy Gibbons 12th. It was a crazy old race too in the Painted